The next coach that I'm going to have come up is Coach Nicholson. He's been in baseball for a long time, been a head coach at a high school level, at Loyola High School, has been a Division I pitching coach for the last 17 years. He's been the head coach of the Orleans Firebirds, which is out in Cape Cod. For any of you who are familiar with college baseball, it's the premier college summer league. I was fortunate enough to be his pitching coach for a while out there. And I pitched for him in college at Loyola Marymount, not very much. He wouldn't give me the ball very much. Anyways, but the one thing that I will say is, when I started my coaching career, I got to the place where I was trying to coach pitchers. And I said to myself, yeah, just do it like this. And I realized I had no idea how to coach. I mean, I had done it for my whole life as a player. I didn't know how to coach it. And so Coach Nick had given all of the pitchers at Loyola Marymount, we had this booklet, this binder, this like super organized, like everything you could ever want on how to pitch and how to do this and mental and mechanical. And so I opened it up for the first time and I said, wow, I should have done that when I was in college. Maybe I would have learned something. But the most organized person that I've ever worked for, coached with, and by far, I have taken a lot of the way that I coach myself in terms of organization from him. And I think it's become such an important part of how to run an effective practice and how to become a good coach, is to know what you're actually trying to teach. So I can tell you by far there is nobody better at that part of the game than Coach Nick. So so I'm going to let him share his thoughts on practice organization and whatever else he feels like he wants to talk about. Coach Nick.
First thing I'd like everybody to do is silence your cell phones, please. Just kidding. Let me we could hand these out. Maybe we could pass them out back there. Get them going down the road. Does everybody have one? Does everybody have one? Well, first of all, I'd like to thank Coach Beck for having me, and I'd like to thank all you guys for being here, taking time out of your busy days for being here. It shows a lot about who you are and that you care. So the first thing that I just have 5 things I'd like to talk about. And the first thing, when Chris asked me to do this, was the impact that my Little League coach had on me. And 50 years later, before every game, I think about Mr. Halstead. And the thing I remember about him, I get a little emotional talking about him, because he was such a good man. And so I just wrote down some things about Mr. Halstead that I remember. He was organized. He was calm. He was incredibly positive with all of us. And at the end of every year, when I played for Pizza Palace, when we had our end of the year banquet, he would have a 4x6 card for every player and for every game that kid played in. He wrote something down, kind of a highlight or something positive that he did during each game. And man, 50 years later, I went back to that night at Pizza Palace when he handed us that card, and I was like, wow. It took a lot of time and effort and energy, and it just really showed that he cared. So the question I would pose to you guys, and these guys have heard this before, is how do you guys want to be remembered? By your players, by one another, people in the community? What kind of coach do you want to be? And how do you want to be remembered? And then live your life like that and coach like that. So, with that being said, let me start with the very first thing, and Coach Beck, I appreciate the nice words, Coach. But the first thing I have down is organization. And so you guys will see the very top page, when our Cape League schedule comes out, the very first thing I do is I go through and I map out our entire summer schedule. So you'll see date, our opponent, where we play, our bus departure, what time we're going to set up for BP if we have a home game, what time we're going to stretch, what time BP starts, game start, game number, and any special notes. So I'll do that for the whole summer. I think that's the very least that we can do for our team, is be organized. It's one of the first impressions I'm going to make on those guys. And those guys are coming from outstanding programs. They're coming from UC Irvine, in North Carolina, in Miami, and all over the country. And so I need to make a first impression, because that's going to stick with them. You guys need to make a good first impression with your team, and with your parents, and with your assistant coaches. So that's the very first thing I do. For you coaches, I would do that. I would map out your entire season, and I would also make sure that you have a printed out practice plan. And I would email it to them the night before, or at least make sure it's posted when everybody arrives. I would encourage you guys to be the first guy at the ballpark. Don't let any players beat you to the ballpark. For your practices, I would keep everybody active. The worst thing you can do is have one kid hitting and everybody else shagging. So keep everybody active in groups of 3 to 4, and have 3 or 4 groups and rotate them around. I would keep it to 90 minutes. Our workouts in the Cape, we don't practice, but we do have 3 initial workouts, and we try to limit them to 90 minutes. And we're dealing with college kids. Their attention span's not great at 20. And I can imagine what it is at 7, 8, 9, 10, 12. I teach high school. I've been teaching high school for 35 years. I try to never lecture more than 20 minutes. There's a reason they want TED Talks no more than 20 minutes. If you listen to TED Talks, they're brief and they're bold. So I would encourage you to do that with your team. And then the last part about organization, I would really encourage no post-game talks. No post-game talks. We never did it in Orleans. And I tell our guys, I am not smart enough to break down our 250 pitches between the last pitch and when I have to meet with our group to say something even semi-intelligent. I need to digest the game, let it soak in, take some notes, either that night or in the morning, and then communicate the next day. And I'll talk a little bit more about that later. Our guys have been in the ballpark. You see how early we go for a 7 o'clock game. So when our games are over and we're wrapping it up, we've been there 7 hours. The last thing they want to do is hear from me. They're tired, they want to get out of there. Your little kids are probably more concerned with getting pizza and ice cream and getting out of there. And their attention span is they probably will have been there for 3 hours. Get them out. And be brief and bold the next day. Secondly, my fiance is an elementary school teacher. And one night, Coach Beck was talking with us, or coaching with us, and Pride Brown was had the honor to have these 2 guys on our coaching staff, 2 of the best guys you're ever going to find. And one night we ran a bunt defense. And we have really good players in the Cape. And we put on a bunt defense, and we had everybody do it the wrong way. Everybody. And I told my fiance, I shared it with these guys, and my fiance's name is Donna. She says, you got to be visual. We're visual learners. Males are visual learners. So I thought, from that point on, and you'll see in some more of the handouts, and my first visual is a golf ball. So this is what our players they will know what I'm all about. And in golf, everything's related to par. We're 2 over par. Tiger had to shoot 1 over par the other day to make the cut or whatever it was. But par is our acronym. The P stands for punctuality. I'm going to demand that they're punctual. I want them to be accountable, and I want them to be extremely respectful to everybody that we come in contact with. Be respectful to coaches. I want to be respectful to our players. Be respectful to their parents when their parents come to watch them play. When they travel from California to Cape Cod, it's a long way. The very least they can do is say thank you for coming to support me and watch me. I would encourage you to ask that of your players. Make sure they thank mom and dad for being there, for driving them there, for washing their uniforms, etc. Be respectful to umpires. I'm glad Coach Gillespie is gone because he would totally disagree with me on this. If you've ever watched him coach. Be respectful to our opponents. Without our opponents, we can't play the game. And then respect the game. Make sure there's discipline when these standards aren't met. We don't have rules in Orleans, we have standards. We fear rules, standards we live up to. So I like the word standard way better than rule. In examples of standards that are not met with us, if a guy's late, he's not going to play. If they forget a jersey, he's not going to play. If he's disrespectful, we're going to send him home. I need a little water. I got this. So I think that's super important. You know, what we're trying to really do is develop good young men. Develop lifetime habits. So, punctuality, accountability, and be respectful. So if I toss one of our players a golf ball during BP, you better know what that is. Okay? Third, our mission statement, and I'm not going to read it to you, it's there. It's on the second page, I believe, if you open that. It's our mission statement. You know, you guys can read it. I hate when people read to me. But the most important thing about this mission statement, and I think it's extremely important for you guys, is you guys want to make it a positive experience for your players. That's the most important thing for us in Orleans. We want it to be positive. We want kids to go back to Carolina, Miami, Virginia, USC, Loyola Marymount, and say, hey, Orleans is a good place to play. The coaches are good guys. They're organized. They're our best recruiters. So make it fun and make it a positive experience so when the summer's over, the kids have fun and want to come back and play again. I think maybe what you guys could have your kids really embrace are the last 4 lines of the Little League Pledge. Where it says, I'll play fair, I'll strive to win, but win or lose, I'm going to do my best. As long as they're doing their best, man, that's all we can ask. And don't judge your success on winning and losing. A good friend of mine who's a college coach and a very successful college coach, I called him one summer and we had a long talk, and the thing that resonates, he said, Kelly, stop worrying about winning because we really don't have much control over that. Okay? 4, if you look at the next, I have 5 visuals. I have more for our team, but I have 5 visuals, and the very first one is Jim Leland, I think. Jim Leland? And so the very first thing I'm going to tell our team this summer is we're not going to do it, and I learned this from Jim Leland. I heard him speak. He was asked the question, how do you get 25, and Brownie can relate to this, how do you get 25 young millionaires, different ethnicities, different ages, to buy in? And Jim Leland says, we're not going to do it your way, and we're not going to do it my way, but we're going to do it the right way. And that's what we try to do in Orleans, every day. And we want to do it better than everybody else. We want to take BP, we want to stretch, the way we handle ourselves post-game. We want to do things the right way. The second one is the bus. I kind of talked about this earlier. You guys see the picture of the bus there? It's the back of the bus. That's what they're going to see if they're late. And we're not going to stop. They get in that right front seat, and it's 2 o'clock. I said, what time is it? 2 o'clock, and we take off. And you better be on it if you want to play. The third one is the flag. I know there's been a lot of, obviously the flag, and a lot of controversy, but we pay attention to that. I want our guys standing the right way. We all stand the same way. It's going to be left hand behind our back. We're going to put our right hand across our heart. We're going to bear down for 90 seconds. We're going to be a statue, and we're going to do it all as one. We're all going to stand the same way. We're not going to sway and spit and scratch and do anything else. We're going to be a statue for the 90 seconds that the anthem's playing. The fourth visual, you can see I think that's my goal. You guys see that picture? Can you guys see the ball in his foot? Right? Clearly safe, right? Mike was called out. He was called out. And I think an important lesson in that is we want to be able to handle adversity. Umpires are going to make mistakes. We as coaches are going to make mistakes. I've never had an umpire yell at me because I've made a mistake coaching. But for some reason, and I know there will be some disagreement, for some reason, we as coaches think that we can run out and yell at adults and say crazy things when they make a mistake. I've never had an umpire yell at me for making a mistake, and I've made a lot of them. So I think we need to be mindful of that. They're doing their best. They're doing their best. Handle adversity. It's good for all of us. Every once in a while, I'll stray from that. Every once in a while. And then the last one is just a picture of Phil Jackson. I just love Phil Jackson because to me, that image just reeks of calmness. And he was calm when he coached, and I love to watch Phil coach. And I love the Lakers. Loved the Lakers. And then the last thing I have, I went to dinner, and these guys know him, all three of these guys know him very well. I went to dinner when I got home this summer with a sports psychologist named Alan Jaeger. And I just wanted to pick his brain, and he asked me a very powerful question. He said, Kelly, and I would pose this question to you as well. He said, Kelly, what are the 3 things you can do this summer that are going to make you the best coach and make your team the best possible team it can be this summer? What do you personally need to do? So I thought about it. And so I got this, I am engaged, but this is not my wedding ring. But I got this red ring, and inside of it, it has a hashtag. And it has 3 C's. And the 3 things that I think that I need to do this summer to be the best that I can be and enable our team to be the best that it can be is to be calm. I need to be consistent in my behavior, and I need to be an unbelievable communicator. So those are my 3 C's. And if I can do that every day, whether we win or whether we lose, then I need to walk out of the ballpark with my head held high. If I can do those 3 things every day, be calm, be consistent, and communicate. I like to communicate individually. I try to bounce around and talk to every guy during BP. Just ask them how things are going, kind of check in every day. I limit team meetings. We have 44 games. Last summer we had 3 meetings. We had 3 meetings. We schedule them every 11, quarterly, like you guys probably have in business. I didn't feel like we needed meeting 3 last year. We were kind of rolling it. Nothing to say. And they'll never last more than 20 minutes. So for 2 months, last summer our team meetings lasted a total of 50 to 60 minutes. And then lastly, I think it's really important that you get to know something, get to know just one or two things about every one of your players outside of baseball. For you, what book does he read? What's his favorite class? Whatever. Who's your best friend? What's your hobby? And boy, if you can make a connection, those kids are going to play a lot harder because it shows you care. And that's really important. I think that's really important. They don't care about, right, we've all heard the saying, they don't care about what we know. They care that we care. They want to know that we care. And then lastly, I have two just things to wrap up. How am I doing on time, Coach?
You're out of time.
I'm out? Two things. Am I in 12 minutes?
No, you can go ahead.
I'm good, okay. Two things in conclusion. I would get a hold of the Matheny Manifesto. It's the most powerful letter I've ever read in my 35 years of coaching. I would read it and I would share it with your parents. It's written by Mike Matheny, who manages the St. Louis Cardinals. And that letter turned into a book. But I'll let you guys Google it, read it, share it, read the book. It's incredibly powerful. And he's right on the money with everything he says. I'm going to dovetail on what Skip said. You want to get better at baseball? I'm a big believer in playing other sports. Major leaguers play 9 months a year, and they rest for 3, and 10-year-olds play 13 months a year. And it's stupid. It's stupid. And Coach Gillespie said the same thing. Don't drink the travel ball Kool-Aid. Arguably the two best players we've had in Orleans, and I think they were there when you guys were there. Colton Wong, who was inducted into Cape League Hall of Fame a couple years ago, was an outstanding football player in high school. Linebacker in high school. Pretty good baseball player. You guys all know Colton plays second base for the Cardinals. And then, arguably, I think he's probably the best pitcher we've had in Orleans. He was drafted as a shortstop. He is an incredible point guard in high school. He's probably going to get the ball opening day against the Yankees. His name is Marcus Stroman. Stroh was both those guys are multi-sport athletes. Brandon Crawford, who played short for us 1 year. Multi-sport athlete. Play other sports. And if they don't, then just let them rest and be a kid. God dang it. I get my blood boils when I talk about travel ball. If I was king for a day, I'd eliminate it. I'd absolutely eliminate it. Because it's good for the guys that are running travel ball. It's not really good for your team. And then lastly, to end with this, I want to encourage you guys to be a calm, quiet source of support and encouragement for the guys that you're working with. Be calm, be quiet. They don't need to be yelled at every pitch. Encourage and support them. And thank you for your time. And Coach Beck, thank you for having me. If there's anything that I can ever do to help, you can go to our website, OrleansFirebirds.com, and my email's on there. But feel free. I mean, I think all of us are the game has been good to us. And the least we can do is give back. So if there's anything I can help you with, please contact me. So thank you very much.